How to go from stressed out to blissed out. Welcome back to the Path to Purpose podcast with Dr. Katja Rusanen. In today's episode, we are exploring how to go from stressed out to blissed out, offering insights to help you live your purpose. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Melissa Minnich, who is the founder of Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School. Melissa delved deep into the synergies between cutting-edge science and time-honored spiritual practices. Drawing from her vast knowledge and experience in quantum physics, energy healing, Vedic science, and spiritual psychology, she has created a unique pathway for individuals seeking enlightenment, healing, and empowerment. Melissa's groundbreaking work is perfectly showcased in her book, High on Life, A Prescription for Bliss, and widely acclaimed Quantum Miracles docuseries. These platforms not only explore the intersection of science and spirituality, but also have catalyzed a global awakening, touching over 1 million lives. So welcome, Melissa. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Katja. I'm so grateful to be here and to have this conversation with you today.
So as we get started here, can you share a little bit of your path? Was there a special moment that led you to this journey, and how it inspired you to create Bliss Prescriptions in High on Life?
Yeah, so my story starts way back in the past, and I won't go deep into it, but I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, sexual trauma, loss of family members, a lot of things that really created, I was a 10 out of 10 on the ACE score by the age of 10. So it's adverse childhood experiences. And so by the time I got into my 20s, I was a super high achiever, graduating top of my class, but I was stressed out, self-mutilator, diagnosed bipolar, you name every disease and thing that you could imagine I had. And after graduating from college, and after 9/11, I got myself deep into some trouble and became a drug trafficker. And fast forwarding that, I decided to try to heal my life. And so in 2009, after being homeless, I decided to try to figure things out. I went back to school and I started working on healing my body, my mind, my spirit, and really taking those steps. And by the time everything came around in 2016, I had created a really successful business. I had healed a lot of stuff. I was helping a lot of people. I was traveling around the world. I had started speaking. I was doing a lot of really amazing work, but I was in a place where I was working like 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I was still in that rat race. I still had pulled all of that trauma in that certain way from my childhood. I'd healed a lot of things, but I didn't know how to stop. I was like, I never wanted to be homeless again. I never wanted to have, this challenge, that challenge. I never wanted to have any of those situations. And so then I started building this business. And one day I just woke up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know what to do. And so I took a step back and decided to start to rewrite how I showed up in the world. And so that journey took me to a moment in 2021 where I went to Egypt. And when I was in Egypt, I laid in the king's chamber in the sarcophagus, and I had an awakening, a massive awakening within my body, my pillar of light, my central channel, like within myself. And a couple of other different amazing things happened in Egypt. But what happened there was from that activation and that initiation into this higher frequency, the year after that was my year of death. I had 7 people pass away. I lost my 2 best friends. I lost family members. I shut down my 7-figure, really, incredible business that I had built so hard over all those years. And I left my home in California and I moved out of the country. And in that year and a half that I took off from life, as I call it, was the year that I really learned how to sustain the energy that I had started to cultivate, both through experiences before Egypt, but then had really understood in Egypt, where I was living in this higher state of consciousness. And so I spent that year and a half diving deep, adding in the stuff and the things that I was already teaching and learning, but then adding in more of this deep experience of what I now call Bliss Prescriptions, because I lived in a state of awe and wonder and love on a daily, regular basis. And it was so profound for me that when I came back to society or back to life, my friends would just say, wow, you're just high on life, because I wasn't on anything. I was no longer on the drugs or the alcohol from when I was in my 20s or any of that stuff. Yet I was living in a space where it was literally like I was, and I was just high on the frequency of love. And so that's kind of the story of how the book came about, because then Hay House reached, I won a writing, runner up in a writing contest with Hay House. And then I decided to go back to school to get another degree and a PhD working with the science of consciousness.
Thank you so much for sharing this journey, because I think there was some turning points in their lives that so many can relate to. It wasn't this direct thing from A to B. And I think that's sometimes the illusion that causes so much pain for us, because we think, okay, I decided, and then everything is just smooth sailing to what we want. But you had the ups and downs, and even some like, okay, we go this direction, and then there was shifts, and you had the willingness on your journey to keep going and seeking and finding then what you now you are sharing in the book. And so many people struggle, like they might just realize that they are stressed, but they are struggling to identify the cause. Like you as well mentioned that there was so much. And on my own journey, I didn't even want to look in the beginning, because I was like, oof, that's going to be messy. So I don't want to turn and check in what's inside. But what are some practical steps from your book to help pinpoint and address these triggers and the points why we are so stressed?
Yeah. So what I first think is, I love the point that you're talking about is like, sometimes we don't even recognize. We just think, oh my gosh, this is the way life is. I go to work. I feel a little overwhelmed. I numb out on social media. Maybe I have 2 glasses of wine before I go to bed. All of these like normal things that we see in society is like, that's just normally how it is. And so we don't even realize that we're living in a state of actual stress and anxiety, because we're living in a culture where this rat race and this success is what we look at as achievement. We're like, oh, this is what the success is. This is what it has to look like. I have to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, or work 40 hours a week and take care of a family and cook all the things and just keep going. And so we don't even realize that there's another baseline or another way to be. And so the first thing that I step people through that I really talk about is reflection. It's like really looking at, how do I feel most of the time? When or how frequently do I experience moments of joy? How often do I feel anxiety or stress or depression? What are the emotions that I'm having when I wake up or when I go to bed? When we start to reflect and actually like look at things, then you start to notice, oh, I have these predominant thoughts that are going on in my head all of the time. I'm always worried about this, or I feel guilty about this, or there's shame around this, or I feel bad if I take a nap in the afternoon and I am not doing or creating, right? And then we start to look at things like, I always tell people, your mental state, your physical state, and your relationships will show you everything. When you reflect on them, you'll really start to see, how are you really living in your life? Do you have physical challenges going on? We know to be true that 99% of all dis-ease in the world is epigenetic and not genetic. And so it's being created by the emotional wounds, the trauma, the stress that's underlying us. And then we look at our relationships, like, how am I interacting? How are my personal relationships, my business relationships, my friendships? How am I? Do I feel supported and loved? Do I feel isolated? Do I feel lonely? Are there unresolved conflicts? Right? And so we start to look at these, and then in that mental, like, do I have a lot of negative self-talk? Am I Am I, thinking about those things? So once we get a baseline, and there's no judgment in a baseline, right? This is where the reflection comes in and just says, hey, this is where I'm at, because if I want a new destination, I have to know where I'm starting. And you just lovingly get an opportunity. And that's my first Bliss prescription, right? When our Bliss prescriptions are like, how do I get out of the medicine or the prescriptions of the world, taking, whatever that might be, a drink of wine, or on a prescription for something that's going to calm me down, or that I need for my physical health or my mental health, because I'm so stressed and we don't even realize. And so instead we start to look at these other prescriptions, and the first one is really just reflection and stepping into that. And then once you have that, one of the things that I found to be really something that's super simple that most people aren't doing is breathing. Just breathe. And I know this sounds so simple, but a deep belly breath, like just stop right now, everyone, and just take one deep breath right into your belly. Immediately, there's an energy shift in your body. We are breathing from our upper chest. We hold the energy here. We're not breathing deep. And so I talk about breath, the science behind breath, but also not only just breathing deep, but I give practical breath exercises that will allow you to start connecting to the energy in your system so it starts to flow more. And through these types of energetic movement in your system, you'll actually start to see physiological changes in your mental state, in your body, in your mind. And when you're breathing, it brings you into the present moment. There's no way to be worrying about this over there, about what's going to happen in the future, or thinking about the past. If you're in a breath, while you're in that breath, you're completely 100% in the present moment. So those are the first two super simple things that I always share as prescriptions. And it's like, oh yeah, I've heard this before. But the way that I break it down and show it to you, it's because there's a way when you start to layer these things together that you'll have a massive transformation.
Yeah, I love that. And I share as well, because I discovered the power of breath. Like I was always ignoring that, like, oh, that's so simple. Like I breathe, okay? Like, but there is a difference when you actually are more conscious and working, because I think that's one of the really wonderful ways if you are feeling overwhelmed or stress. I think that's what you are sharing, like just breathe, because sometimes we are so busy, we are so stressed, we are like, "Ah, I can't do anything more, don't tell me more things to do." Well, you are breathing anyway, so how about just paying a little bit more attention, like you so beautifully shared, because I just, it looked like your energy as well shifted when you took that deep breath in. So love that one. Really good tips. So just test it out right now. Take that deep breath. And let's talk more about your book, because it has this special blend of scientific theories on the one hand and then spiritual principles.
Yeah.
So how do these two perspectives work together, especially when it comes to reducing stress or creating that lasting bliss?
Yeah. So what I go into deep in this book, first it's a teaching memoir. So it shares the stories of all of the things from my traumas to my drug trafficking and all the things that I got myself into, and then how I got out of them. And then it gives the prescriptions for each of those. And I blend the science and the spirituality, because I'm talking and working with what we call bliss consciousness. So if you think, if any of you out there are meditators and you've ever done a deep meditation, when you're in a deep meditation, you're going to a place that's, you're transcending into what? Well, you're transcending into what could be called consciousness, God, source, the field, right? And in science, it's called the unified field. So that transcendence, you feel these moments of peace or awareness, and you feel different in your body. Well, what the goal is how do I bring that feeling of peace out into my walking and daily life? So when transcendent consciousness, when that transcendent feeling becomes a part of the integration of your everyday life, it becomes bliss consciousness. And so bliss consciousness is not about always being like super joyful and happy and blissful and like everything's all great and blah, right? Like It's about having an underlying place of peace that you always tap into that colors the way that you see the world. So it's imagine like you're putting on rose-colored glasses. And so although I was in my car and I just got in a wreck, and in that moment, I'm like, oh, but I'm still in an underlying place where I'm like, everything's going to be okay. I know that it's all right. I'm safe. All these things, right? I instead of like, I'm freaking out, I'm getting out of the car, I'm screaming at the other person. I'm like, and so what the combination is that I'm bringing in the science of like how the brain works, how the different delta, the brain waves that we work with, our heart rate variable, how those work, the science behind working with like our inner child, and well, I guess that's more on the deeper side of it, but the spiritual side. But we're working on. I give step-by-step processes that are very scientific that show the baseline of not only the science of like quantum physics and neuroscience and how we work with what we call the unified field and what that looks like with consciousness, but also we're diving deep into this idea behind like, is the meditation, is it spiritual? No, it doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual. Breath, is it spiritual? No, but breath is light, or breath is spirit. And then we go into building your central channel, which is your pillar of light, and I go into both the side of it on the spiritual side where I am light, you are light. What is enlightenment? And then I talk about the science side of it. Your pineal gland, your DNA are light receptors. Your cells produce UV light. And so there's a connection between the two and how we can actually play with actual light and how that shows up in building your pillar of light and reaching a higher state of consciousness, this bliss consciousness. So that's how we weave all of these things together. And it comes from my years of study and travels and over 20 degrees and certifications and trying to heal my own stuff, honestly, is where it started. Just trying to heal my own stuff and then taking all that wisdom and combining it in a very unique way.
Love that combination. And also it is often like I have the same thing, like started with my own healing journey, and then there comes the moment in life when you start wanting to share. And now your book is also out. So let me just ask, if somebody is now like, I want to dive even deeper, because we're going to give like where you can where you can start this, but then if somebody is already now like, tell me, where can I find the book?
Absolutely. So you can find the book right now on highonlifebook.com. highonlifebook.com. And when you go there, when you order the book, you're also going to be able from there, get your receipt number, and you'll be able to go over to my website, melissaminnick.com, put it in, and you're going to get a free course that takes you through the bliss process and the different steps. So you're going to get videos with it. And we're also having a masterclass coming up here in a few weeks that you can join, and I'll be teaching the processes live. So there's a lot of ways that you can interact. And I'm also doing a book tour. So I'm going to all different places all over the United States, Europe, and in Australia. So when you go to my website, you'll also be able to find dates of where maybe you can come and get a live workshop with me to do the processes with me and a book signing.
Beautiful. So check it out. I put the links there just below. So check those links out and get that book. And now let's just also give something for people if they want to start their journey from stressed out to blissed out. Of course, I recommend get that book to dive deeper. But what are 3 simple actions that they can take today to create more joy and ease in their lives?
Ooh, well, okay. First, again, I would just say learn to breathe, go deep into your breath, really step into that. The second thing is one of the breaths that we teach in the book, and you can really do this. It's really simple. Is you're breathing into your heart, and when you breathe into your heart, I want you to feel a feeling of like gratitude or appreciation or love, and as you breathe that in, and you're feeling that, you're going to start to create a coherence between your heart and your brain. And then from there, you can take a lot of steps. I actually have a step-by-step process how you can do that deeper. But for right now, super simple. You can even try it right now. Just breathe into your heart. Breathe out. And then just, if you have to remember a time or a place or a thing that makes you feel that love or that appreciation or that gratitude, it starts to really work with your energy field. It starts to work with how we move things in our system. And then another one that's super simple, which is my favorite, I think, that I love, is somatic experience. Getting into your body is a great way to feel more joyful all the time. So that my favorite for people when you're just starting out or don't know is get up and dance. I put on music every morning and I dance in my kitchen, or I go and dance naked in the backyard, or whatever makes you feel good. And there's a whole science behind moving your body and how shaking it and dancing lets you release trauma. And so those are 3 simple steps that you can start right now that you don't even have to read the book for, because they're just that easy to do.
Thank you, because you've given us a lot to think about today. And also just want to reiterate that there was the gift that you are also giving for the audience. So can you just share a little bit more about the gift?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this gift is called your Bliss Consciousness and Divine DNA kit, and what it has in it is this amazing workbook, and it comes from the principles in the book. And so you can go through, you can start doing your reflections, start understanding those things, like where you're at, what's going on, and then there's a 45-minute healing journey that actually will take you into what it feels like to be in bliss consciousness, so that you have and understand the frequency, because it's the frequency of unconditional love. Because once you get to it, you can always return. And the key is to keep practicing going back to that. So you have this beautiful journey. It's going to take you deep into bliss consciousness and into working with your own divine DNA, so that you can really live in a higher state of consciousness.
Love that one. And now, as we are wrapping up here, do you have a special final message that you would like to share?
My book is about finding love. It's about finding love, but not the love of someone else or anything like that, but finding the frequency of love in the field. And you have to remember that you are already that. And all you have to do is uncover the things that you have believed that have kept you from being what you truly already are.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for your time and wisdom today, Melissa. And if you enjoyed this interview, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and explore our previous interviews too. So sending you all love and light. See you in the next video.